Let's chat a little bit about, this is a perfect opportunity to talk about some of the do's and don'ts with when you get above 24 hours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, everybody knows that 24 hours for most people, again, all those disclaimers and everything like that people talk about there to make sure nobody sues me or you.
Yes.
But people know that it's generally regarded as safe, right?
Yeah.
And anybody can do it, and you don't really have to think too much
Yeah.
about those components. And again, people are still having water during this time, right?
Yes.
What else might they be having that could help a 24-hour fast? And then let's go look at the longer fast and see if there's any tips and do's and don'ts around fasting.
Yeah. So this is what's really interesting, and I think not talked about enough in the fasting world, is that there are a lot of things you can have in that fasting window outside of I want to talk about the fasted snack, because that's something that I've used really strategically with people who are learning to go into these longer fasts. So we can talk about that, and then we can talk about what you drink. So let me start with the drink, because the cup of coffee is the thing I get asked the most about, which is, can I have my coffee in my fasting window? And I would say, of the millions of people we've watched fast, for most people, coffee is going to work in your fasting window, black coffee. So now in the book and on my YouTube channel, I've really emphasized you should do a blood sugar test to make sure that it does work for you. And we can talk about that in a moment. But with coffee, if it's black, it's going to be fine in your fasting window. If you add MCT oil, even better, because it'll start to move you over into this fat-burning ketogenic system quicker. Once you start adding cream, you're going to have to really do the blood sugar test and see if cream works for you. And this is the blood sugar test. You take a blood sugar reading. If you have a CGM, great. You can get like a handheld, like a Keto Mojo or something like that. Get your blood sugar baseline, have your cream and coffee, and then a half an hour later, take another blood sugar reading. And are those two readings similar? If that second reading is 5 points or higher difference than the first reading, it pulled you out of a fasted state. So you're going to want to play with, maybe pull the cream out and see if what happens if you just do black coffee.
Sometimes doesn't that, because most people have their black coffee first thing in the morning, and your cortisol is going up. So your blood sugar, like I notice for me when I'm wearing a CGM, sometimes there's that just natural variation of my blood sugar going up in the morning, which coincides with people having their coffee.
Yeah.
So should they wait a little while to have that, just to make sure that that doesn't interfere?
Yeah. If you want to be as pure with the testing, I think it's a great idea. Is like, know when your cortisol goes up, know your coffee habits, all that. So you might, if you had a CGM, you might understand what that natural rhythm is first. And with that spike of glucose, and then add the coffee in the next day and see what it does. Does it?
And have you seen enough situations where cream does sort of move people's blood sugar up significantly?
And this is a whole nother rabbit hole of information, but what controls our blood sugar is our microbiome. So it's all the questions I've been asked. I mean, this is the most common one. And I can't say that women should do it this way, men should do it this way, because your microbiome and my microbiome are completely different. I would say people with a good, diverse, healthy microbiome typically get away with cream in their coffee, and it can actually cause their blood sugar to go down. And so then it actually helps them in the fasted state. Dave Asprey is a huge fan, obviously, of, buttered coffee in the fasted state. He strongly feels that it allows you to go into these longer fasts. I've even had discussions with him where he feels like you could do it in a 3-day water fast. I would say it probably works really well for his microbiome. We just need to get to know our own bio-individuality, and we have to get out of these absolutes. So that's why I like the blood sugar test.
Totally. I'm one of those individuals that liquid sources, concentrated sources of higher saturated fat creates, again, probably because my gut microbiome creates a little bit of like an endotoxemia reaction. That a high concentration of that in, like, I'm okay with butter being used to cook food and things like that. But if I have it in liquid form, I notice immediately from my history of having acne as a teenager, being on things like Accutane, antibiotics, other stuff,
There
right?
you go.
I notice immediately the redness in my skin. I notice immediately, like I'll get little pimples and stuff like that. So again, just another reason that people have to personalize what they do.
Right.
MCT I'm a little bit better with, but I'm also, it's interesting. I'd love to get, maybe we can chat about this afterwards. We'll have you on round 2. Have you heard of the Clearly scan? It's a new type of test that's sort of measuring both hard and soft plaque tissue.
Yep, I have.
Arteries.
Like I heard about it. I feel like I heard about it like 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's sort of been making the waves a little bit. And Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, a friend of mine, was the first person who kind of put it on my radar, and I'm getting mine done next week.
Beautiful.
Because also, I have a natural history of high LDL, even with all the tweaks and other components that I've brought in. But again, we know that there's like a whole nuance thing when it comes to LDL and of course cholesterol and other stuff, but this feels like another test to add. I'm not affiliated with them in any capacity, but another reason why I'm temporarily just minimizing like concentrated liquid sources of saturated fat while I get clear on sort of my own personal situation when it comes to cardiovascular disease and family history and stuff.
And this is, I think when it comes to health and nutrition, we really get into danger when we look for absolutes, because because of the microbiome, we are so diverse, and your microbiome and your exposure to what stimulates your microbiome is going to be completely different than mine.
That being said, there are things that you've seen that generally work for most people.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And so going back to your list, you were talking about the do's and don'ts of fasting. One of those things that generally works for most people, and we've seen that it's kind of been talked about by a lot of other individuals that are also fasting experts like yourself, is that black coffee is okay, right?
In general, black coffee is okay.
In general, black coffee is okay.
Right.
What else are on the list of do's and don'ts when it comes to some of these longer fasts that we're...
Okay, check this out. I have a free fasting guide for you all. It's free. And it's going to teach you all the basics of fasting. It's going to teach you how to kill hunger when you fast, which is really cool. And it's going to show you how to break your fast, among many other things. All you got to do is click on this link right here and enjoy.
Okay, so other things you can do drinks-wise, and then I really wanted to address this fasted snack, and then we can go into some of the don'ts. You can do mineral water. You can do, I'm a huge fan of electrolytes. That's really, really works well to make that fasting window just a little bit easier. We noticed really that was like a turnkey thing for people going into those longer, a little bit of, to me, a longer fast, I guess 24 hours will feel like a lot to some people. So if you do your coffee, you do some electrolyte packs, you might notice you can go a little further. The fasted snack was actually something I found in the research when I was putting together a video for my YouTube channel a couple of years ago. And here's what the research showed, is that if you had pure fat and it didn't raise your blood sugar, and you wanted to fast longer, you could still get the same metabolic advantages that people who fasted, let's say 24 hours, if you fasted 17 and you're like ready to die, but then you had a full fat bomb, like a half of an avocado. But I've used even bone broth, something that's really rich in fat, but didn't elevate your blood sugar, that it would kill hunger, and you'd be able to go fast a little bit longer, and you'd still get the benefits of somebody who didn't eat at all.
So in the case of like a lot of the commercial bone broths that are available out there that are still like good quality.
Yeah.
Looking at, I started a new strength training program, so I have to like measure everything that I do and calculate it in. So bone broth is often a good go-to tool for me, because in particular for the program that I'm on right now, which is a short period of time, I don't have fat phobia or anything like that, but I'm on a lower fat diet just for a period of time while I get into kind of ideal body composition, and then we're sort of building up from there, just kind of following the program. Amazing. But one thing I noticed about like bone broth is that it's high in protein, and a lot of it's like low in fat. So do you have to do a particular type? Like my bone broth that I have, Kettle and Fire, it's like 20 grams of protein, and there's like really like hardly any fat inside of there.
Yeah.
So is it, and even like an avocado would have things like fiber and have a little bit of this. So when you say a fat bomb, how strongly do we have to stick to that to make sure that it doesn't interrupt our fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the bone broth topic, by the way, you're right. I mean, you need it as fat rich as possible. If you could make your own, that would be the best, and really have it's that just
top layer.
Yeah, that top layer, that like juicy layer that you really want, because that will kill the hunger. Here's the challenge. Fat bombs are really hard to find and hard to make, because where they're just pure fat, no protein. I'll tell you the thing that I have found the most, and I have no affiliation with these people, but they are my go-to are keto cups. Mm-hmm. Have you tried keto cups?
I think I have. They're like these little, almost look like Reese's pieces. Reese's peanut butter cups.
Like when I've got a long day ahead of me and I know that I need ketones to keep my brain solid, and I know hunger may kick in at some point, I'll just grab a couple keto cups and pop one or two in my mouth. Kills hunger, doesn't take me out of a fasted state. I still get all the benefits of those ketones, and I can go longer without having to stop to eat a meal.
Great. So that's where like a tool like that could be a useful.
It would be amazing.
Component.
You want to dive into autophagy more? I have a great video called The Best Way to Extend a Fast and Boost Autophagy. So go check out that video. Once you click into this fasted state, somewhere in between 8 to 12 hours, now the trick is, how do we stay there longer?